Welcome to the Charitable Real Estate Masterclass. It is March of 2024, and we just want you to know right off the bat, we are taking the next 6 months to revamp and reorganize and restructure, and we got a lot of great people that we're working with. And so if you are wanting to watch the masterclass moving forward, it's going to have to be a recording until at least November of 2024. So welcome. And thank you for watching this recording and letting people know that gifts of real estate are not only how to fund nonprofits by the billions with a B, but I got to tell you something, NAR is having issues with reputations of realtors. And so we just want you to know this is also a great way for realtors to revamp their reputation with what's going on, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, right or wrong. They are having issues out there in the real world. And so imagine when realtors can actually help to fund nonprofits by the millions and billions, how that's a different conversation than who's paying what commission. So I'm going to share my screen and jump right into the information today. Just want to let you know, one of the ways that we help nonprofits to get funded and help realtors to business develop and help financial advisors and any other business people to business develop is through what we call the Donate Real Estate button. And I'll be showing you that throughout the day. And then at the end, I'll be talking about how you as a sponsor can sponsor a nonprofit, or as a nonprofit, you can get the Donate Real Estate button. We've got lots of free marketing material. And we've got some stuff for a couple $100 and for a couple thousand. So it's just up to you as to how much help you want or how much you want to do this all by yourself. So I'm going to share my screen and let's get started. Now, as we are getting started today, let me just preface this with a little bit of context. This is Neiman Marcus story from about 6 weeks or so ago. Neiman Marcus dumping 500 million square feet of office space. What does that have to do with anything? Well, there's owners of real estate that have hundreds of thousands of square feet that are empty, that are vacant, that they could be donating instead of dumping. And imagine the PR campaign when they are able to donate and let people know that they have. So that's one thing that I want to mention. The other thing, and I'm not going to click on all these links, but everyone is hearing about what's going on with the NAR, with what's happening with realtor commissions, et cetera, et cetera. Look, things are changing in the world. And the fact is, the realtors are needing business. They're needing a little bit of a revamp of the reputation of the real estate professionals out there. This is a way to bring the nonprofit and the real estate professionals and all the other businesses together so that we can fund nonprofits, fix reputations, get them paid, and just come together for social responsibility. So having said that, let's jump on into our presentation today, charitable gifting of real estate. So we have been doing this since September of 2020. We are very proud of the fact that we've got this 3.5-year longevity. I've never missed a month in 3.5 years. So to be taking the next 6 months to revamp myself and to just go spend some time in the trees, I'm very excited to go play in the redwoods of Northern California for a few months and just get down to nature and be barefoot and hug a tree makes me very happy. And I want you to know that this recording can be made available to those that you care about that need to learn about what we're doing here. Now, we always start the book and the masterclass with a little bit of a caution. You know, the fact is you cannot unlearn what you're learning here today. You know, when as an alcoholic in recovery, you know, once I learned that there was AA and that there was a solution, I couldn't just say, well, I've got a problem and I can't fix it. Friends, whatever your problem is, whatever your issue is, whatever your need and reason for coming and learning about charitable gifting of real estate from any of these different perspectives, business development, funding, meeting the right people out in the world, you know, curing cancer, feeding animals, helping people have better housing conditions, whatever that is for you, you're going to learn how to do that here today. You can't unlearn the truth. So it's going to be up to you to either take this information and do something with it and be the champion that your community and that those you say you're here to support need you to be, or you can learn about it and sit back and wait and watch and wonder what's going to happen and see if other people are doing it. Look, charitable gifting of real estate's been around for 100 years. It's $9 billion a year. The only reason that your nonprofit's not getting funded is because people don't know that they can donate real estate to you. They don't know how it works. The realtors that you know don't know that they can get a full commission to help you get funded. Financial advisors, your clients don't know that any nonprofit that they love can get funded this way. It is our responsibility. I believe it is my responsibility to tell people. And it's up to you to decide if it's your responsibility as well. So this is an image of a 200,000 square foot office building in Birmingham, Alabama, that was donated to nonprofit in September of 2023. So when people say, well, why would someone donate real estate? Who would donate real estate? My nonprofit doesn't know people that own real estate. I would say, shame, shame. Let's not have scarcity mindset. Let's think to ourselves, have I ever seen a building like this? Yes, you have. Is it in your backyard? Yep. Detroit, Chicago, Miami. This same building I saw when I was in Kissimmee, Florida. I'm now on the west coast of the country, San Diego, LA, anywhere, USA. These buildings are sitting vacant because people aren't going back to the office anymore. So this particular building sat vacant for 4 years. Can you imagine? This is a $10 million building. You can look it up. Just Google Scott Dawson Evangelistic Association, and you can pull up all kinds of articles about it. It is a $10 million building. Can you imagine the overhead on a monthly basis between the loan and the taxes and the insurance and the upkeep and the management and the utilities? 4 years, they were bleeding tens of thousands of dollars, totaling hundreds of thousands, and they donated it because they got a great tax write-off, they got an albatross off their back, and they helped a nonprofit that they love. Friends, someone you know knows someone that owns a building like that. Period. End of story. You're just not talking to them about it yet, but that's okay. We're going to fix that today. Remember the caution. We can sit with this under our hat, or we can tout it and let people know. Now, we call these legacy listings because that building I just showed you, that particular nonprofit needed a building and they took ownership of it. But 99.9% of you don't want an office building. And we don't want you to become managers and maintenance people. If you just want the $10 million cash that building could have sold for, well, what we do is we list it with a realtor. We pay them a full commission to liquidate that building and give you the proceeds. That's why we call them legacy listings. And the book, Real Estate is Hot, Fundraising is Not, explains how the process happens, how realtors get paid, how the 5 keys can unlock how to leverage real estate for real change. Now, here what the keys look like, just to kind of give you a taste of it, to encourage you to read the book, and you can get it for free. I'll show you how to get a free download, including the audio of the book. Now, key number 1 is to learn. We alliterate everything here at the Real Agents of Change. It makes it easier to remember and a lot more fun to say. So number 1 is to learn. Friends, you're doing that. Whether you're live with us right now or you're watching the recording, you're turning the key to learn what charitable gifting of real estate is. Key number 2 is when we get back to that caution, what are you going to do with it? Now that you've learned it, who cares how long it's been around and how much other nonprofits are bringing in, and the fact that realtors nationwide are getting paid to list and liquidate doesn't matter if we're not talking to people. So lead generation starts with the people that you know. This is not about cold calling. This is not about buying a list of 1,000 people. This is about talking to the people that know you, love you, and care about you. Key number 3, we start talking about, okay, great. Now that we're lead generating, now that we're talking to people about this, when real estate is donated, we list it and we liquidate it. And key number 4 is we start to leverage. Let's do cause marketing campaigns. Let's bring the for-profit and the nonprofit communities together. You know, that whole social responsibility thing people talk about, having social impact, how businesses will grab a hold of a nonprofit that they support, whether it's veterans or animals or stopping cancer or, human trafficking, etc. Let's have those businesses come together with us so that we are leveraging real estate for real change. And why? Well, key number 5. Because if you're watching this video, you want to leave legacy. You're that kind of person. You are all about purpose and positivity and doing the right thing. No matter what perspective you're coming from, you want to leave legacy, whether that's, a boatload of cash for your kids, because as a realtor, you made a lot of money as a charitable real estate specialist, or whether you're a nonprofit who's wanting to stop cancer and feed the animals and do all the beautiful things that nonprofits are here to do. The fact is, this is how you do it. And this is an image of people who are doing it. Realtors, nonprofits, champions like myself taking a knee to let you know there is a better way to fund those nonprofits we care about. This is a nonprofit in Sarasota. I met with this nonprofit for a whole day. Went around and went into the homes where they had 5, 6, 7 people living in a house where they were, supporting homeless, and they needed more houses. And the founder of this nonprofit actually owned about 100 houses and donated a property himself because of our conversation. Now, let's talk a little bit about what are we going to go through today and our overview of how charitable gifting of real estate works. We're going to really take a deep dive today, friends. You might have seen a 20-minute overview. You might have watched a few videos on YouTube. What this is about is really diving deep, getting your questions answered. I want to encourage you to ask me questions as we move along if you're live. And if you're not live, you can always email us and get your questions answered. So, section 1. What is this all about? Like, what is donating real estate? Why have you never heard of this before? What are the first 2 of the 3 ways that real estate can help nonprofits? Section 2, we get into the 3rd way, the win-win-win way, the way that you're here to learn about that can transform everything for your for-profit or your nonprofit. And who are the key stakeholders? Section 3, we're going to talk about the benefits. Why does this benefit everyone, especially including the donors themselves? Let's really understand all the key players here and why it benefits other people. You know, Zig Ziglar said, if you want to help, if when you help enough people get what they want, you ultimately get what you want. So let's learn how we can help all these other people, because ultimately it's going to help us get what we want. Section 4, financial advisors, donor advised funds. Friends, I'd never even heard the term donor advised fund 5 years ago. So we added this section to make sure that you really wrap your head around what a donor advised fund is. Don't gloss over this. Don't go take a break during this section. This is a super important section. Now, what does qualify as a gift of real estate? What are some of the documents that you might want to be aware of? Now, keep in mind that one of our favorite sayings at the Real Agents of Change is do what you do best and refer the rest. So we are not giving you all this information for you to go and explain to people how the tax benefits work and what forms to give to the IRS and all that stuff. Let experts do that. We just want to give you like a bird's eye view of how all of this works. And then the last section, we're going to talk about that donate real estate button. I'm going to show you the free marketing stuff that you can copy and paste and use yourself. I'm going to show you some templates that you can grab up for a couple $100. And I'm going to show you the charitable real estate donation button, the landing page, the opt-ins, all that fun stuff that you can grab up for a couple of $1,000. It's really that simple. So, why are you here? I highly recommend that you have a pen and paper or, however you like to take notes, because you are going to think about people that need to know about this, whether it's board members on the board that you sit on for your nonprofit, whether it's a real estate agent that you know right in your hometown or across the country, whether it's a financial advisor that you've known for 20 years or that you just met at a Chamber of Commerce event last week. You're going to think of people. And highly recommend that you start writing those people's names down, because we can either sit on this information or we can share it and make something happen. So we do have something called the Certified Charitable Real Estate Specialist designation. It is a trademarked designation with the government, and it strengthens relationships. You see, 99.9% of nonprofits, realtors, financial advisors are not talking about this. Not yet. Why? Well, you're going to learn why they're not and how you can be the tip of the spear, right? You can be at the beginning of teaching people something that's been around for 100 years and they just aren't aware of. You will be able to gain access to high net worth people. I'm in, I would say LA, but I'm in California because of a commercial realtor who, when he saw me speak about a year and a half ago, he had already a year prior sold $40 million worth of real estate that was left by his client for a local nonprofit. And it is clients like that with tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate that are needing to learn about this. Now, you're going to hear about people like Linda, who donated a $70,000 cabin in the Poconos. So they don't have to be multi-millionaires. But when we're talking about donating major assets, man, we are talking about people who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who need to get that tax deduction, and they can't take it with them. They can't take it with them to heaven. This raises your profile. Imagine being one of the less than 0.5% of nonprofits that's actually promoting and letting people know that you are able to benefit from gifts of real estate. Imagine being that 0.5% of realtors who is taking this on and being the hero that their community needs and getting paid a full commission and helping financial advisors to add to their assets under management. You see, this can help any business development or funding issues, or frankly, personal, professional legacy that you're wanting to, I started to say attack, but that you're wanting to address. More introductions, more commissions, more referrals. Here's what you're going to learn today. You're going to learn that donations of real estate are happening. This isn't pro forma. This isn't something that we think would be a great idea if somebody might do it one day. No, been happening over 100 years. You're going to learn what the 3 ways are that a donor can donate real estate to help a nonprofit, and why the first 2 ways are so outdated, old-fashioned, and don't really work, and why the 3rd way is what you're here to learn about. You're going to learn why you've never heard about this before. You're going to learn why donors are giving real estate away and trying to give it away, and they're being turned down. They're trying to give real estate. They're trying to give. They're trying to hand the deed to do a good deed to nonprofits, and they're being turned down. And how you can be that hero that your community needs. You see, people say that social responsibility is important. Companies are wanting the communities and their potential customers and clients and current clients to see them as caring about their community. And so when we can help everyone get what they want, those companies want to look good in the community. What better way to look good than to not just help one nonprofit, but help hundreds or thousands or all 1.5 million for that matter, with the largest, boldest, badassest social responsibility campaign ever. Now, you're going to have questions. We get that. And you can, if you're live with me, unmute yourself and ask a question. Keep in mind that I'd say 95 to 97% of questions are going to get answered over the next 2.5 hours that we're together. But feel free to unmute yourself and ask me. You can enter them in the chat box. I can't see them while I'm presenting, but during the break, I will address those. And we will have a Q&A at the end of each section. I'm not going to show the case studies live today, but at the end, I'll give you the link where you can go watch all the case studies until your heart's content. I just don't want to give it to you now because then you're going to go down that rabbit hole, and I want you to stay present. Be with us to understand how this works, and then you can go do your fun research late at night when you don't have access to me to ask questions. All right, section 1. Let's have some coffee. Concepts, collaborators, the real agents of change, specialized nonprofit, for-profit, nonprofit, what? Who? Huh? Let's talk about it. What is this donating real estate? Who are the players or the stakeholders? And what are those first 2 ways? Now, I'm going to come up with a scenario. And I know in today's class, a couple of my favorite people in the world, Willis and Hector, are with us, and they have a nonprofit. They've got several nonprofits. They are gentlemen who are helping people who have disabilities to have better housing and supporting people who've had spinal cord injuries to live a more fulfilling life, et cetera, et cetera. Now, they do these classes that they teach, nonprofit, creating housing, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just going to say that they have a nonprofit that is in Oklahoma. That's where Willis is. And Hector is in Florida. And we're going to have a scenario that we go through. So feel free to take notes and do the numbers with me. The scenario that I'm using right now is exactly how you can grasp a couple of these concepts that people will tend to forget, but we're going to put them in our story. So we got a nonprofit in Oklahoma. We've got some supporters of that nonprofit in Florida. And we've got a donor we're going to call Bob. And Bob has that office building that we talked about. It's a $10 million office building in California. Let's take a look at how Bob could donate that building to help their nonprofit. Now, the first way, Bob's got a $10 million office building in California. He's got a $2 million mortgage, and he wants $2 million back in his pocket. He paid $2 million for it 20 years ago. So, what if Bob were to just sell that building? Good old-fashioned real estate sale, just like any you've ever heard of. Bob's going to pay a ton of capital gains and other types of taxes, etc. But Bob sells that property and then gives a check to this nonprofit. Let's talk about why this is the worst way it can happen. You see, the problem is, in this scenario, the government's going to get more money than in any other scenario. And unless you work for the government and you need job security, let's not do it this way. This is the lazy, old-fashioned way. This is what nonprofits say to their donors when they don't know any better. Please don't let your donor just go sell the building and give you a check, because your donor is going to get the least amount of tax advantages, which is why the government gets the most amount of the money. Your nonprofit's going to get the least amount of money because Uncle Sam's getting several $100,000, shoot, in this case, maybe even millions that you could have received if we'd have done it the right way. You see, this is what people do when they just don't know any better. You know, how people used to take a cab. No, how people used to stay in hotels. But things change. Uber is created, Airbnb, shoot, even Netflix put Blockbuster out of business because people improve upon things that have already been created. And that's what we've done at the Real Agents of Change. So let's not do it this way. This is the worst way. Now, here's the second way. Bob gives Willis and Hector a call and he says, hey, you know, I got this $10 million office building, saw a presentation, and I'm thinking about donating it. And so he donates it directly to their nonprofit. Well, the problem is, hey, this is a $10 million building. There's a mortgage that needs to get paid off. Bob wants $2 million in his pocket. In order for Bob to get the tax benefits that he wants, this property has got to exchange hands with the 501c3 for him to get those tax benefits, to get the write-off. And so now Hector and Willis are taking on a $10 million property across the country. Now they got to manage it and maintain it and pay the upkeep while it's on the market. Hell, it's a commercial property. It could take 12, 24 months to sell. Holy cow. What a big undertaking that is. So instead of having them pay off mortgages and giving cash to Bob and being responsible for this big ass building and paying just like the guy we saw in Birmingham did for 4 years before he donated it. See, what if, oh my goodness, what if they say, you know what, we are going to take this on. We're pretty smart guys. We know people that'll pay off mortgages and help us with all this. What if at the last minute, Bob, who is a dear friend of theirs and wants to support them, what if Bob says, you know, actually, now that we've got this bad boy under contract, I actually want to give $1 million of the proceeds to my church, and I'd like to give $1 million to veterans too. Well, now they're doing all the work and being asked to grant part of the proceeds. Now they're still going to get a couple of million in this scenario, but damn, that sucks. So what about all this time and talent and treasure that they're putting into this? You see, here's what we know to be a fact. 99.9% of nonprofits won't do this. We are not advocating that they should do it. Matter of fact, we are begging you, please don't do it this way. You have no idea what's going to happen with this building. You don't know. Maybe it's sitting on a, you know, maybe an earthquake comes along and it falls right into the Pacific Ocean. Maybe it's contaminated. Maybe. Risky, yucky, yucky. Don't do it. This is the hardest way. Now, there are scenarios when a nonprofit, just like the one we looked at in Birmingham, wanted that office building. Praise God. If you need an office building or if you want housing for the homeless, etc., you can take title. There is a way to do that. But what we're saying is, what about all the other real estate all over the country that could be donated to you, liquidated, and you get the $4 or $5 million to buy whatever it is that you need in your own backyard? That's what you're here to learn about today. And we're going to get to the third option in the next section. But right now, let's take a little deep breath and let's get some foundational knowledge, because we want you to know this is why real estate owners are wanting and trying and searching for ways to donate real estate. Here are all the reasons that almost every nonprofit in the country won't take real estate. And this is why we were created, to help all of them get funded. So here's the connection: philanthropy, real estate, tax code. Definitions. This is important to get a foundation of the conversation moving forward. You know, philanthropy is simply the love of mankind, doing good deeds, time, talent, treasure. It doesn't have to be Bill Gates or Mackenzie Scott, who's become one of the biggest philanthropists in the world. It can be you right now watching this video. You're giving of your time, and that really is the most precious commodity that we have. 501c3. A nonprofit is not necessarily a 501c3. So when we say nonprofit in this conversation, what we're really referring to is a 501c3 or a 508, which is a church. And this is important for some definitions and for some clarification. So this is an IRS designation that gives a person who gives them money or non-cash assets like real estate a tax deduction. These two, 501c3 and a 508. Tax deduction, well, the U.S. government created a tax deduction, the ability to get a deduction from giving to 501c3s and 508s in 1917. And they created this law to incentivize people to help the charities that need help. And it's not just for the wealthy, it's for anyone. People who make a $5 or $500 donation can get a tax benefit. So the charitable gifting of real estate is a gift of real estate to a qualified nonprofit, 501c3 or 508. For example, the Board of Realtors is a 506, and they are a nonprofit from the perspective that they don't pay federal tax, but you don't get a deduction from making a donation. Realtors can write off their board dues as a business expense, but it is not a gift that is deductible. So this provides the nonprofit with an asset it can sell to fund its programs. Now, as I just mentioned, if the nonprofit wants to move into maintain and manage the real estate, if that specific building is exactly what they're looking for and they want to own it, by all means, they can. But what we're trying to do here is expand the thinking that instead of looking for that needle in a haystack of the perfect property in the perfect area and then get that owner to donate that property, that's a needle in a haystack. What if you actually opened up the whole haystack and any one of those straws could be a gift to you that is liquidated so that you can buy your needle? All All right. It entitles the donor to a tax deduction against their adjusted gross income, which is super important. And if the asset is appreciated, they can avoid capital gains. And that's a big deal for some people, not for everyone. But friends, when you're talking about an average of $600,000, which by the way, I just found out, average has gone up to $850,000. Wrap your head around that. Well, now we're talking about people who need to save on capital gains. So it sounds simple enough. There are human beings in this country who own assets. This is a writer downer, cash conservative, asset abundant. Cash conservative, asset abundant. And they want to donate real estate to help the nonprofits that they love. But it's the risk that is stopping nonprofits from taking real estate. And here's some of the reasons why nonprofits are turning down gifts of real estate. Number one, they have no expertise. They don't have a clue. So no matter how smart, no matter how well connected Willis and Hector are, Bob's got a $10 million office building in California. They need to be helping people with spinal cord injuries. They don't need to be trying to figure this out and hiring a big team of lawyers, et cetera, to do this for them. They don't have the expertise. And even if they did have the expertise, somebody's got to pay off that mortgage. Somebody's got to take on the risk and the responsibility and the maintenance and all that stuff. They just don't have the capital. And what if they need $500,000 to repave the parking lot? Capital is a problem. Diverting their focus from the mission at hand to trying to handle real estate. We don't want them doing that. People have heard of bad experiences. They've heard of nonprofits that took a gift of real estate. I have talked to nonprofits who have taken real estate and it's been years and they still own it and they don't know what to do with it and they're saddled with the taxes on it. And it was a bad deal. Somebody unloaded it and hustled them and got rid of that real estate. Bad experience. Some nonprofits will take real estate on a very limited basis. You'll talk to community foundations who say, oh yeah, no, we take real estate. But if you ask them a little bit further, you'll find out they'll only take it if it's in a mile radius of their nonprofit, if it's vacant, and if it's mortgage free and on a silver platter. It has to fit in such a small box that good for them that they'll take it. But what about all the other 99.99999% of real estate in the country they could be benefiting from? Most nonprofits have it written right in their gift acceptance policies. We don't take non-cash assets, especially not real estate, and for good reason. And remember, we're not asking nonprofits to change their gift acceptance policies. They do not take title to the real estate the way that we do it, unless that's what they want to do. So ultimately, it's just so damn risky. It's so risky for a nonprofit to take real estate. They just say no. But the real reason they're saying no is because they don't know about the third way that we're going to talk about in section 2. Now, I keep mentioning 99.99999% of nonprofits don't take real estate, but there are a handful that do. So let's just pull some of these up and talk about why is it that I would be showing you different nonprofits that do take real estate. Well, gosh, friends, I hope you do your research. I'm sure you're going to go Google and go down that rabbit hole, and you're going to see all of these as well. And every month I do a new Google search, and there's a couple more every month that are popping up. Now, remember, there's 1.5 million. So even though there are a couple hundred, it is way less than a half of a percent. Here's the thing. Your donors are learning about this too. We got a big mouth. We got a lot of videos out there. We're talking to a lot of people. And your donors are on other donor lists. And real estate agent, your clients are very fickle. They are not in love with you. If another realtor brings this to their attention, guess who's going to get the listing? So if they're all Googling and they find cars for kids, for example, and they need a tax deduction, and they don't know that their Boys and Girls Club or their church or their veteran group could benefit, and they donate to Cars for Kids, good for Cars for Kids. And that person just got a fabulous tax deduction. Problem is, your nonprofit didn't get funded. You, real estate agent, didn't get a full commission listing. We don't have an opportunity to do a PR campaign to let people know that you just got $850,000 for your nonprofit, that you as a realtor just listed and sold a property that is funding your community by almost $1 million. The point is, it is happening. And if we aren't teaching your people, they will find out and they will do it with somebody else. Now, this is why we were created, was so that all 100% of nonprofits never have to say no to a gift of real estate again. Let's give the donors a choice as to who gets their legacy. Start with your own donors. You as a realtor can be the go-to expert. You as a CPA, friends. Realtor, CPA, financial advisor, attorney, title company, car dealership, jewelry store, dog walker, come together. You know, how you normally do fundraisers, and everybody's got a table, and they're lucky if they raise $5,000 or $50,000 at the golf tournament. What if everybody came together and actually did a campaign like this that funded the whole community by millions? It's a big conversation, but it's happening. Because all for-profit and nonprofit can be proactive. Don't be that person who says, well, our nonprofit's never been offered any real estate. If it ever comes up, we'll give you a call. Our real estate company has never had someone offer real estate as a donation. If it ever comes up, we'll keep you in mind. Friends, that is naive. That is sitting back and waiting to react when somebody else does something. That is normal. That is why 99% of people aren't doing this. You can be proactive. You can actually let people know. Now, indulge me to share with you what brings us all here together today. Because you might be thinking, well, if this has been happening for 100 years, why haven't realtors been taught? Why haven't nonprofits been able to take real estate? What brings us to this conversation? Well, this is my first business. And you might say to yourself, so what? I've owned many convenience stores. I've got laundromats. I've got office buildings. I've been a business owner myself. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is this is what I look like when I was 8 years old running a business out of this convenience store. Meaning I would go in here and buy gum, bring it to the elementary school right behind this building, and sell it for a 500% markup. Kids had quarters in their pockets and they wanted the gum that was in my pocket. So I started bringing extra gum and selling it and then loan sharking that money. And the reason I share that with you is because I've always had just an innate way of seeing a market that wanted something and how to capitalize on it. So when I learned about this 4 years ago, I thought, holy cow, this is an untapped, underleveraged, underutilized niche. So when I was a real estate agent, this was my first professional headshot. Gosh, this was 20 years ago. Me and my daughter. I was a single mother. I was newly sober. I was in a new part of the country. I didn't know anyone. So why not get my real estate license? And I did. And one of the reasons I did it was for my daughter. I wanted to be able to set my own schedule and write my own paycheck, etc. And I wanted to be able to bring her with me to, she used to go with me to showings, and we used to go do fundraisers together and car shows and things. So as a real estate agent, I was very creative with marketing. I learned very quickly that Remax, you could use their hot air balloon for free if you just got enough people together. So I would. I'd gather up the media and press and community. I actually did a TV show with Century 21 North Shore in New England. So I was very creative and assertive, and just could see opportunity where other people could not. I was actually on HGTV twice. I did My House is Worth What, and then did House Hunters. And then with my first big commission check, I bought this car, and it was my dream car. And with this car is what brings you and I together today, because this car, whom we called Scoop because of the scoop in the hood, I ended up doing antique car shows and parades and sponsoring events with this car. And what happened was, as we were bringing in a few $1,000 from the car show, we were giving it to nonprofit. We were giving it to the community. And I noticed, just by osmosis, just by guerrilla marketing out in the marketplace, handing out flyers and talking about the car show and how we were rescuing horses that were being slaughtered, and Ronald McDonald House and Make-A-Wish and all this stuff, I learned that people, even when they didn't care about real estate or Remax or Cammie Baker, they sure did love that we were helping the horses, helping a firefighter who had died in the line of duty, all these things, social responsibility, social impact. And I did this car show for 7 years. And during that time, I became known for helping the community with fundraisers. So over time, I started getting hired by real estate, financial, Main Street USA businesses to help them support the causes that they cared about. In this image, I was working with the president of a board of realtors. We did a diaper drive, 8,000 diapers, whole room full of diapers for women who are coming off of opioids. This is Jacksonville Real Estate Investor Association. We did a coat drive, and they flew me down to teach them. That was my first book, Mingle to Millions, and talked about cause marketing campaigns. This was my Botox doctor, and she and I did a campaign to get more people into her office. We did things for Habitat for Humanity. This was Realtors for Recovery that we created in New England. We did coat drives in Boston, and hat drives and sock drives. We did things for animal rescue leagues. We did things for veterans, poker runs, even boat. We used to do boat runs. We packed boxes to send overseas for our enlisted folks. And friends, the reason that I'm sharing all this with you is because it's all that real estate background and all that nonprofit background that leads us to 4 years ago, when I was sitting in a conference and I heard the speaker say, charitable gifting of real estate. And I lit up like a Christmas tree. And I thought, how in the hell have I been doing all these fundraisers for major nonprofits like Ronald McDonald and Make-A-Wish? How have I worked for every major real estate brand? No one's ever brought this to my attention before. Holy cow, what a niche. People need to know about this. So we've been written up in Yahoo Finance talking about how real estate already does serve nonprofit by the billions. We wrote a book, Real Estate is Hot, Fundraising is Not. This was our book launch. We did it at a big nonprofit in Sarasota and was written up in the Business Observer. This is just an example of one of the gifts of real estate that, we just want to show the different types of real estate. What kind of real estate can be donated? Anything, residential, commercial, 2-family, 1,000 units in an apartment complex, an office building, raw land, anything. So on that note, let's take a quick break because I got to go to the little girl's room. So I'm going to put us on mute. And when I come back, we're going to go ahead and jump right into section number 2. I'll check and see if there's any questions in the comments, but we'll be right back. Hey, Brent, just want to say, answer that a little bit about the financial planners, and we are going to get into that a lot more in the section on financial planners. But 65% of these donations of real estate are instigated by financial planners because when you think about it, financial planner has clients who want to be philanthropic and who need tax benefits. I mean, we all have clients like that, but we don't know it. We're not the ones that are digging into their tax needs and their philanthropic needs, but they do. So on one hand, they can help those clients that they already have with this. And on the other hand, they can build their business by letting dozens, hundreds, thousands of people who need the tax deduction and want to be philanthropic, let them know that they are a charitable real estate specialist. You see, people have a misconception. Oh, well, they're financial advisors. They already know about this. They already know how this works. No, they don't.
Yeah.
They may know that a gift of real estate is a good tax deduction. They may know that. They may, because believe it or not, I've met financial advisors who have no clue how even that part works. But they don't know that there is a really simple way to bring this to the attention of those donors and how it's risk-free for any and all nonprofits that they care about.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah, I got to thinking about that. I'm like, oh yeah, well, it obviously they know the tax portion of it, but they don't know the rest of it.
Well, and not only that, my friend, they don't know how to leverage this as a business development. See, that's the trick here. Gifts of real estate are only 10% of what we're really talking about. Because like I said, we got 5 keys. The first key is to learn what charitable gifting is. Great. Key number 2 is lead generation. And they are not, just like realtors, don't know how to leverage this as a niche. You know, realtors are a niche of luxury or waterfront, or hospital buildings are their niche, or multifamilies or condos. Well, guess what? There's another niche. It's called charitable gifting of real estate. So what we're doing here is we're helping everyone to understand that this is a niche that they can leverage in their marketing, that not only helps them find more business, but actually brings millions of dollars into their community. And that in and of itself is part of how financial advisors benefit, realtors, CPAs, and even the car dealerships and dog walkers if they are leveraging this. So
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of work to do, don't I?
all right, let me get back to thank you for asking that question, and we are going to jump on back in and continue on. Okay, get rid of this. Okay, section 2. Now we're going to get into the third way, that the win-win-win way that this benefits everyone. And this is kind of a long section, but this is really where how does this work comes together. Now let's remember, we've got a nonprofit out of Oklahoma who's got some support staff and team and partners in Florida, and they got Bob. Bob loves them. He's got a $10 million office building in California. He's got a $2 million mortgage, and Bob wants $2 million in his pocket. But when we do the math, give or take commission and holding cost, etc., there's about $6 million in proceeds there, 5 million plus. So the first way is if Bob sold it himself. Man, is he paying a lot of taxes. Hold on a second. My battery is saying it's low, and I don't know why, because I am plugged in. Hold on one second. I want to make sure. Okay. All right. I think that fixed it. So if Bob sells it himself, he's paying a lot of taxes, nonprofit's getting less money. The second way is if Bob gives it directly to that nonprofit. But what we know for a fact is 99.9% of nonprofits are going to turn that down. And they're turning down 5 million plus in proceeds. So here's the third way. Here's how we at the Real Agents of Change suggest and teach nonprofits and everybody else to do this. We have a third party specialized nonprofit, there's a handful of them, that facilitate gifts of real estate. So think about the donate button on any nonprofit's website. When you click on that donate button that you've seen 1,000 times and you put in your credit card information, that nonprofit does not facilitate credit cards. They have a third-party merchant service that facilitates the credit card processing and gives them the cash. Same thing here. Only instead of 10 million or 10,000 merchant services to choose from, there's only a couple, us being one. So when the specialized nonprofit is the one that is paying off that mortgage, giving that donor cash, taking title to the property, facilitating the whole thing, just like nonprofits don't have any risk with taking credit cards. If the person who donates $1,000 through the credit card processing doesn't make their payment to Mastercard, that does not affect the Boys and Girls Club. So this is risk-free for any and all 1.5 million nonprofits. There is no out-of-pocket expense to handle the transaction. There are some specialized nonprofits I've heard of that take some type of retainer. That's not how it works here. We won't work with anybody like that. No money out of pocket to handle the transaction, just like the credit card company. They keep a little piece on the back end. We'll talk about that. Capital is available to enhance the value of the property. So it can be a property that needs a roof, or maybe it is a strip mall that needs an anchor store to be put in to enhance the value. I'm sorry, my battery is not, I'm having a hard time making sure that my, 1 second. Right, I think that's got it now. My little cord is kind of wonky. The property does not need to be free and clear. This is why I mentioned in our scenario that there's a $2 million mortgage, because people will ask, does the property need to be free and clear? Remember our scenario. There's a $2 million mortgage. Right off the bat, we know it does not need to be free and clear. The donor does not need to donate the full amount. That is why in our scenario, Bob is getting $2 million back in his pocket. Whether he wants to buy life insurance, whether he wants his initial investment, whether he wants to take his wife on a whirlwind tour for the next 3 years, doesn't matter. He can pull cash out. He does not need to donate the full value of the property. When the donor donates the real estate, they get their tax deduction immediately. Now, this time of year, this is not nearly as important, but towards the end of the year, when they need a tax deduction this year, he donates that building, he gets his tax deduction. Now, this is a $10 million office building. It could be a year or two before it actually closes to the end user, which is when the nonprofit world's going to get their funding, but the donor gets the benefits immediately. The nonprofit world in this scenario receives the maximum donation, meaning government's not getting capital gains tax. Well, they will on the mortgage and the cash that Bob's pulling out, but they're not getting as much. So the nonprofit world is going to get a bigger donation. I'm going to show you in section 5 a comparison of a $4.5 million piece of property, traditional sale, donation, to show you the difference. All nonprofits qualify for this. Remember, 501c3 and 508. This is the win-win-win way for the nonprofit, for the donor, for the realtor, for everyone involved. So let's take a look at how this whole bad boy goes down. So one of the specialized nonprofits that helped me put this class together, we'll call these the stakeholders. I call it the triangle of trust. In order to have a donation of real estate, you need donors, you need nonprofits, you need advisors. Now, the donors could be an individual like Bob. It could be a corporation. It could be, and believe it or not, 70+% of all donations come from individuals, not from corporations. Now, advisors in our world are anyone who is advising people who own real estate. So it could be CPAs or wealth professionals or insurance folks or realtors. Could be commercial realtors or residential. And the nonprofit world, of course, could be public charities, donor advised funds. These are the people that it takes to have a gift of real estate. Now, the donors are a yes. Yes to what? Friends, this is not about convincing or selling people or begging. This is about advising. This is about information and education to let them know what their choices are, period. And for the right donors, they are a yeah. They're a hell yeah. Yeah, I need a tax deduction. Yeah, I'm a veteran. I want to help veterans. I've got 14 properties. I can't take them to heaven. Are you kidding me? I can do this? Yeah, they're a yes. The advisors are a yes. Financial advisor. You mean all my clients that are always talking about taxes and talking about leaving legacy? You mean we can do an overview and teach them how this works? And I can look great as a financial advisor and earn income and build relationships with hundreds of realtors and vice versa. The realtor can build relationships with hundreds of financial advisors. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm in on that. Friends, it's the nonprofits that are a no. They are a no for all the reasons that we keep talking about. It is so complex. It is so risky. They don't have the money for mortgages and holding costs. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the desire to drift off of whatever their mission is that created them to begin with. They have heard of bad experiences or had them. They have gift acceptance policies that stop them. And the fact is, they won't even ask for real estate and they turn it down when it's offered. So most of them will say things like, well, not most of them, because most of them haven't taken a gift of real estate, but they will say things like, we took real estate. There's a Boys and Girls Club in Florida. I'll never forget. I've talked to them 3 times, gone to their office. They took a gift of real estate. It was a golf course many years ago. They took it and they handled it. And it paid for the building they're in right now. But they'll never do it again because it was so arduous and time consuming and just consumed every waking moment for over a year for that nonprofit. Or they'll say things like, well, we accept real estate if the moon is full and the tide is high and nobody needs any cash and it's vacant and it's next door. But ultimately, they say no too. So what these specialized nonprofits do, notice how in the triangle of trust, they slide in as the nonprofit. They are the 501c3 that takes title, that gives the donor the tax benefit. They take real estate of any kind, commercial, residential, raw land, doesn't matter, from anywhere. It does not matter where the nonprofit is or where the real estate is, because this is not about the nonprofit taking title. They take on the financial responsibility, the environmental responsibility. They convert the asset into cash and grant the proceeds to the nonprofits that the donor designates. Period. Guys, this explains how this works. It is that simple. Please do not overcomplicate this. When you think about a nonprofit that's having a golf tournament, the nonprofit does not explain to people how to play golf. They don't only invite professional golf players. They don't teach people how to play golf before the golf tournament. They have a golf tournament and they invite people, and whoever wants to come comes. Same thing here. Donate real estate button on the website. Tell people about it. Those who want to learn about it will. Period. Keep it simple. Okay, The Rock, the Real Agents of Change. Acronym is The Rock. Our team of experts include these specialized nonprofits. Going to reiterate this again. They accept gifts of real estate. They provide the tax benefits. Do what you do best. Refer the rest. Don't try to be a tax expert. They absorb the financial responsibility, just like the credit card processing. Merchant services absorbs the risk of people paying their credit card bill. These guys absorb the risk. They work with the real estate community They pay them a full commission to list the property. And then they grant the bulk of the proceeds to the nonprofit world. Let's keep this really simple. Every real estate transaction is completely different. No two real estate transactions or gifts or scenarios are exactly the same. Some of them are super simple. There's no mortgage to pay off. There's no holding cost. It's a 6-week done, easy. Some of them require $2 million mortgage, $2 million cash out of pocket, 2 years of holding cost. That's why we say that the nonprofits are going to receive 90% or more, most cases 98% of the proceeds, the way that we do it. There are specialized nonprofits that will keep 30 and 50 and even 85%. That is not who we work with. So be clear, the nonprofit world receives at least 90%, more likely 98%. Keep it simple. Okay. Dr. Russell James has done the research. When a nonprofit accepts cash only, they grow at 11% the rate. When they step into non-cash assets, they grow at 66% the rate. Why would a nonprofit limit themselves to 11% growth when they could have 66% growth? Well, because of all the risks. But guess what? We just removed all the risks. See how you can either be the champion and tell people, or you can hoard the information and lose sleep? He wrote the foreword for our book, Real Estate is Hot, Fundraising is Not. The Nature Conservancy is one of the nonprofits who's been taking real estate for decades. And they know that the same donors on the donor list will give 3 to 7 times more. Not every single one of them. But when you're talking about $600, now $850,000 from one donation, you don't need all of them to. If 1 out of 10,000 was to donate a gift of real estate, they'd still 6-7 times the amount of donations. And Matt talks about how no additional donors are needed. Now, he said that before the Real Agents of Change were created, meaning now new donors are coming to the table because we are educating financial advisors and realtors and, creating this whole social responsibility campaign. So do what you do best. If you're a nonprofit, just keep doing your mission and tell people that they can donate real estate. Don't try to be some new real estate explanation guru. And if you're a realtor, don't try to explain tax benefits and IRS documents. And if you're a financial advisor, don't try to explain what the nonprofit does. In other words, we stay in our own wheelhouse. And the nonprofits, what the nonprofits do is they promote their cause. They cultivate that emotional connection. They share the benefits of non-cash gifts, and they start asking for gifts of real estate. And they let the specialized nonprofit accept it and fix it and flip it and give them the cash. It's really that simple. And what we do at the Real Agents of Change, well, you're here, whether you're live or whether you're watching the recording, you're here because this is what we do. We promote the ability to fund nonprofits through gifts of real estate. We've got scripts and landing pages and opt-ins, and we're the only organization in the world that's created the donate real estate button and bringing the for-profit and nonprofit together to promote that. Now, let's just sit with this slide for a hot minute. Recognize any of these? Of course you do. What do they all have in common? What they have in common is that they have received money from gifts of real estate that they did not facilitate. They have received money from donations of real estate that were facilitated by a specialized nonprofit, just like what we're suggesting to you to do. Now, interestingly enough, just because Habitat for Humanity has received money this way, they don't tell each other. You would think they would have some big webinar inviting all 1,700 of their locations and say, holy cow, alert, alert, tell people, but they don't. Boys and Girls Club doesn't. Girl Scouts doesn't, but they have received money this way. So we can add your nonprofit logo, just like these universities. Berkeley, Temple, look, all of these don't have real estate divisions, teams. What they have is the same thing you have. Donors who love their cause and have real estate that they want to donate. All they did was tell people. This is, we've sprinkled in a few examples. This is another nonprofit who received $15 million donation, gift of real estate. All right, Berkeley Humane Society. December of 21, donor said, I've got 12 vacant lots of real estate. I want to donate it. When the real estate was donated and sold, Berkeley received over $400,000. Berkeley Humane Society, after 50 years of being around, had never considered gifts of real estate. They were blown away. $400,000? Can we do this again? Yes, you can. Friends, here's what it looks like. Hey, Mary. Hey, listen, thanks so much for that $50 donation at the last dog walking fundraiser that we did. Look, we just found out that gifts of real estate can help our nonprofit, and we're holding a Zoom on Wednesday at noon. We'd love for you to come learn how this works. Whether you have real estate or not, we know you love the puppies, and we just want to educate everyone. There might be someone you know down the road. Well, guess what? 55 and older community house was left to a woman on that donor list. Her mother left her a house. She was financially okay. She was never going to move into that house. She was paying taxes and insurance on it. So she donated it. And they got another $600,000. So one nonprofit, 2 donations in a 6-month period, over $1 million. This is how it works. This is how gifts of real estate work. My light went off, and I'm not sure why. I'm in a parking lot on my way to my next RV resort that I can't check into for another couple hours. So I've got my generator on, and funny things are happening. My apologies. All right, specialized nonprofit. Here is how and why they were created. Okay, you'll hear us say that whether someone makes $20,000 a year, $200,000 a year, 2 million, 20 million, Americans have less than 3% of their wealth in cash, pocket change, in the checking account. They have 43% of their wealth in real estate. And when it comes to gifts of to charitable giving, 90% of what nonprofits bring in, 90% of it is coming from cash. And only 2% is coming from real estate. Now, that's still $9 billion a year, and it is still happening. But experts say, let's look at the next chart and we'll see what experts are saying. Experts are saying that 2% could easily go to 6.5%, which is $29 billion a year. Friends, we're looking at adding 20 billion, not one time, 20 billion a year to the nonprofit pipeline by just letting people know that they can donate real estate. And when we first created this course, we were focused on real estate agents because when a gift of real estate is donated, it is real estate. The way that we pull the equity, the proceeds, the cash out of real estate is by selling it. And we don't do it on Craigslist. And we don't do it by discounting a broker's commission. We pay them. We don't. Specialized nonprofit does. But we bring attention to this. We shine a light on it. We let the realtors know, look, if you want more listings, if you want a niche that is unique, if you want to clean up the Board of Realtors' reputation with all this being talked about, you can actually divert people's attention back to what's important. Real estate for real change. So when we leverage charitable gifting of real estate, it is a great recruiting tool. You want to build a team in real estate? Build a team of people that want to specialize in veterans or animals or churches or disabilities or curing cancer. It's a unique sales proposition. You want to win that listing? Have it in your listing portfolio that you're a charitable real estate specialist. Make money making a difference. Don't just give 10% of your commission. Put money in your pocket by funding nonprofits. And when all businesses are able to business develop because of this social responsibility campaign, it's just smart. Now, even Gene Frederick had no idea about this. Met with Gene in his Puerto Rico hacienda way back about 3 years ago. He didn't know what this was. There's an interview that I did with him, therock.com/EXP. People need to know about this. Now I'm going to jump on into section number 3. Keep in mind that there are many case studies, and I will share some links with you at the end as to where to see the case studies, some other overviews, some other documents, and of course, we're going to talk about that donate real estate button at the end. So here are the benefits to the donors, to the advisors, to the nonprofits. Who are all these people and why do they benefit? How do they benefit? Now, when it comes to the donors, let's have abundance mindset. Let's know that there are people who want to avoid capital gains and care about their communities. They know they can't take that real estate to heaven, friends. And guess what? Their kids don't want a hospital in Miami. They don't want a car dealership in Detroit. They don't want 7,000 acres in the middle of Wyoming. The kids don't want the real estate. Let's be really clear. They want cash. And we show them how to pull some cash out and give to the kids. Now, they want also to write more off of their adjusted gross income. We'll see an example of that in section 5. When we talk about preserving liquid assets to protect their lifestyle, when a nonprofit is asking a donor to donate cash, they are comparing. Think about in your own mind's eye. Nonprofit, you've got $1,000 in your checking account. Do you want to give it to your nonprofit, or do you want to buy your kids Christmas presents this year? Do you want to give it to the nonprofit, or do you want to go to the beach and have a nice weekend? In other words, lifestyle is competing for cash. When we're talking about shifting to assets, it's a whole different ballgame as to how donors can give more and have a smarter tax benefit. This eliminates that complex asset from their estate. Once again, they own office buildings that little Billy and little Alice do not want. This is a way for them to start creating a simpler um, legacy for their children. Take this off my hands. Here's the Linda Grable story. Several years ago, Linda was donating $25 a year to her favorite nonprofit, National Jewish Health. $25 a year, cash conservative. She saw a presentation. She learned she could donate real estate. She had a second cabin, second home, second property, asset abundant, cash conservative, asset abundant, cash conservative, $25 a year, asset abundant, second home in the Poconos. It was a $70,000 cabin. She had had it for decades in her family. It had fallen into disrepair. She didn't want it. She didn't want to deal with it. She didn't want to list it. She didn't want to put money into it. She wanted a tax deduction and she wanted to help her favorite nonprofit. So she donated it. And she said, please take this off my hands. I don't want the burden. Here's the deed. Here's the keys. Thank you very much. Now, here's the deal. When she donated that property, the fundraiser for that property told me a couple of years ago on a phone call, she said, you know, Linda now gives us $500 a year. Now, why did Linda go from $25 a year to $500 a year? Because Dr. Russell James, whom we highly recommend you reach out to on LinkedIn, will tell you there is a psychological shift that happens for donors when they stop giving pocket change and they step into their asset bucket. So it was convenient for Linda to hand this property over. Now, it is not convenient if a nonprofit is trying to figure this out and runs Linda through the process for 6 months of board meetings trying to figure out what to do with that property. No, this is about the third-party specialist taking that on. Now, donors can receive a partial cash payment. It's called a bargain sale. Remember how our example, Bob, with the $10 million property, has a $2 million mortgage and wants $2 million cash in his pocket. The reason that we have that example is because we want to drive home the fact that they can receive cash payment. It's called a bargain sale. And whether it's because they want to pay off debt or get that return of the initial investment, and it might be that Bob's accountant says, you know, Bob, $2 million mortgage, you're going to be getting $8 million, give or take commissions and other things. You can't write that off over the next 6 years anyway. You can only take a $6 million deduction. Once you pull $2 million cash out, you can't write it off anyway. See, these are reasons why we say do what you do best and refer the rest. And he could also be buying life insurance for those kids who don't want his office building in California. What they want is cash. So life insurance gives them the cash. Now, you might be thinking, all right, I'm kind of starting to understand the benefits, but seriously, who would donate their property? Friends, this couple donated $129 million worth of real estate 3 years ago. Because, as we've said, this is a rider downer. They are cash conservative, asset abundant. They are at a place in their life where they want to leave legacy. They are at a place in their life where they know they can't take that property into heaven. They're getting their rewards past the pearly gates. They can't take it with them. They got to do something with it. They donate it because they're cash conservative, asset abundant, want to leave legacy, can't take it with them, have accumulated a lot, and want to be good people. That's who donates. And look, 20% of these people do it because of the tax deduction and they want to have strategic estate planning, and 80% do it because it's the right reason. And the good news is it doesn't matter why they want to donate. The good news is either way, the nonprofits get funded and the realtor gets paid, period. Now, also either way, here's what you need to know about people like this. They want to do it. Remember how we said donors are a yes? Remember how we said This isn't about convincing them to do it. It's about educating and informing them. They are not only grateful that you told them, but they hang out with other people. Isn't it true? Birds of a feather flock together. Let me see. Hold on one second. Computer, my computer is not charging. Got to get my cord right. 1 second. Don't know. If I can't, guys, if I can't get my cord to cooperate. If I can't get my cord to cooperate, we're in trouble here. This is my second cord on this computer, and it is just not cooperating. One second, please. I apologize. I don't know, guys. I don't know what to say about this cord. This is a super important class too. I want to finish up with let me try one other place to plug it and see if this helps at all. I don't know. I didn't know what to say. I don't know, my friends. 1 second, please. Aha. All right. We will move on, hoping that that maintains. Okay. These people want to know about this, and they know other people who need to know about it as well. They are cash conservative and asset abundant. And guys, look, you already know these people. You may not know that you know people that would donate real estate, but it's because you've never asked them. You've never talked to them. You don't know what people will do until you look. Linda was given 25 bucks a year for 32 years. You know Linda. She's on your donor list. She's on your client list. She's in your center of influence. She is cash conservative, asset abundant. She's in your phone. She's on your social media. She reads your emails. You just have to tell her. Okay. So here are the benefits for the nonprofits. When we're leveraging a third party, remember, if you're trying to do this on your own, God bless. It's really hard way for you to go about it. But when you have a third party, you are able to avoid any and all risk and liability because you're never taking title unless you just want that property. You want to be able to embrace your donor's best interest, right? They want to donate assets, but they don't know that you can benefit from them. You are able to strengthen those relationships. Guys, there are people sitting in your church that want to donate real estate to you. And when you are the one that can help them to do this risk-free, you're strengthening that relationship. Like Dr. James says, you are able to grow your endowment by 6 times. You can receive 3 to 7 times more from the same donors on your donor list. So this is Mackenzie Scott. She is Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. Every time I see her, I always think, damn, she married well. She gave these 2 estates $55 million worth of estates to nonprofit last year. Guys, it's happening. It's happening all around us. All right, advisors. Now, if you're a real estate broker, you are moving from real estate agent to realtor to advisor. You're advising wealthy folks on how to give smarter. You can switch your focus from an emotional seller to a non-emotional seller, which means When John and Mary donate their real estate, it's being donated to the specialized nonprofit. You're not dealing with John and Mary anymore that has the emotional attachment and the 8 kids all over the country. Specialized nonprofit is now your client. And for those of you who are realtors, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to earn a full commission. This is not about commission cutting. This is not about giving 10% of your commission. Get paid. Financial advisors, guys, you are able to move hard asset. The only asset that financial advisors can't earn income on is real estate, but we teach them how to liquidate it and put it into a donor advised fund. We'll talk about that more in section 5. Now, for all of the advisors, you can be a certified charitable real estate specialist, which is a designation that others in your industry just simply don't have and are not promoting. And you know, when you can business develop with something that's also supporting your community, well, that's a win-win-win. We teach you how to become proactive, not reactive. You're not sitting around waiting for somebody to walk through the door to offer real estate. You are actually letting people know that you are the specialist that can help. And you're strengthening those relationships. Look, people are fickle. They're looking for the realtor with the cheapest commission or that's going to do something extra special for them. But when you are the only one in your marketplace that has this specialty, you are strengthening that relationship. And you're gaining access to people like Mackenzie Scott and the other folks who donated that 129 million. Think about all the nonprofits in your community and their thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of donors on their list, and how you can gain access to those folks because you're talking about something that no one else is bringing to their attention. Now, social responsibility. I'm just going to bang through this. I'm so afraid that my battery's not going to work on my computer, so we're going to get through this kind of quick. But look, all of these numbers, and this is being recorded. And if you go to the website, you can get a copy of the recording to go back and watch this. 87% of consumers, customers, and clients will choose the product, the company, the service that is socially impactful. Millennials won't even work for a company that's not socially impactful. Your communities, look, your mother and your sister won't even promote your open house or your traditional golf tournament fundraiser. But when you're talking about something like this, they will. So, social impact, social responsibility is the biggest, baddest, boldest way to promote our business. And when we're doing it around real estate that brings in millions of dollars, guys, this is a whole different ball game. So I'm just going to see real quick. I apologize for my my technology issue. Wanted to see if we have anything in the chat. I'm not seeing anything. If you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Excuse me. But for now, I'm just going to jump on into the next section, which is about the donors, or the donor advised funds. Now, don't let this section scare you or bore you to tears. It's financial advisors, but here's the thing, guys. We need to know how and why this benefits everyone involved. Because as Zig Ziglar says, when we help enough people get what they want, we ultimately get what we want. So when we understand how this benefits financial advisors, and I appreciate Brent Berry asking me this question earlier. Let's dive into it a little bit deeper, Brent. So 65% of these gifts come from financial advisors because they are the ones who are getting into the down and dirty secret details of their clients' tax deductions and how much they give in philanthropy, etc. And the financial advisor's favorite nonprofit. Now, nonprofits, don't let me lose you here either. This is important for you to understand what a donor advised fund is, because Fidelity Charitables, which is the largest nonprofit in this country right now, manages $13 billion in donor advised funds. And you could be getting a donation today from any of these donor advised funds if you knew about them. So it is the fastest growing public charity donor advised fund. I'm going to break this down for you in real layman's terms because that's what I needed. I didn't understand this 3 years ago. Donor advised fund is a charitable investment fund regulated as a public charity. It's administered by a qualified sponsor. We're going to see a list of them: Fidelity Charitables, Schwab, that type of thing. Funded by a donor, either one time or several times. So think about it. It is a fund that is advised by the donor who funded it. It entitles the donor to a tax deduction right this red hot minute, and it grows tax-free, and grants are made tax-free. So when people say, well, Tammy, I know someone with real estate, but they don't even know who they would give the money to. They don't even have a nonprofit to give the money to. Fine. Put it in a donor advised fund, get the tax write-off now that they can write off over 6 years. And as it is growing with interest, let's say they put $500,000 in a donor advised fund and interest is growing it, and they don't even know who they want to give the money to. And then next year they want to start giving $50,000 a year to their church, or $10,000 a month here or there, or or maybe they even just keep it and will it to their children. The donor can make periodic grants to other nonprofits. So it could be as little or as large of a grant as they want to as many nonprofits as they like, any size, any time. This is important. Anonymous. I never would have thought of this. One of our guys in the Real Agents of Change is Dan Klatt. He's called the church guy. He has 50,000 churches on his email list. And he said, Cammie, people in church are afraid to do something like this because they've been sitting there for 20, 30, 40 years with all these people around them. They don't want people to know that they had an office building in California. They don't want people to know that they've got $10 million worth of real estate. They don't want people coming to them with their hand out or judging them or any of that stuff. So one of the ways this works is your nonprofit, when you let people know that you can benefit from real estate, we can facilitate the gift and put it in a donor advice fund that then gives you the check so that you don't know it came from Bob. In other words, it can be anonymous. And that's important for some people. Donor advised fund advantages. So the donor advised fund can retain the next generation of clients. To keep it simple, John and Mary are their clients. John and Mary are in their 70s. John and Mary have little Billy and little Alice that are their children. And right now, Billy and Alice might go find some hip new financial advisor. But when John and Mary take all those assets and they liquidate them and put them into a pretty package called a donor advised fund that they can will to Billy and Alice, it makes it a lot easier for that financial advisor just to retain the kids as their clients, because it's a lot easier to just keep everything in one spot than to go try to figure it all out. So there's some strategy behind this for the financial advisor. They are often allowed to earn fees when they are managing a donor advised fund. What is that fee? 0.5%, 2%? I don't know. You have to ask them. But boy, does it add up. They're converting that hard asset into AUM. And friends, that's a writer downer. Assets under management is something I didn't have a clue what that meant. I mean, it's simple when you think about it. Assets under management. Assets of $10 million are under management in this fund. But when you're talking to financial advisors and you say things like, hey, John, I've learned a way that you can double your assets under management. And as a real estate professional, I'd love to take you to coffee and let's talk about how we can work together to double your assets under management and build my business too. Let's go talk about it. See, that's different than the traditional conversations. They know that you know what you're talking about. So, donor advised funds. Here's some examples of commercial. These are referred to as commercial DAF, DAF, donor advised fund. These are terms that you want to remember. So these are all just some names of some of these. As a matter of fact, Vanguard is one that our favorite specialized nonprofit has built a big relationship with. They actually took a $5 or $7 million hotel in Naples, Florida last year, I believe it was, through Vanguard. So these are just some names that you might have heard of before. Maybe you weren't quite sure what does Schwab or Fidelity or American Endowment Fund, all these, what they do is they are donor advised funds. They house this money. And for you nonprofits, here's the thing. All of these donor advised funds, all of these millions and billions of dollars, the only thing they can do with it is to grant it to nonprofits. Now, I am not suggesting, and I know this is coming up in your mind, the question comes up every time, and I just want to say, don't be trying to figure out how you can get a cold list of financial advisors that manage donor advised funds, or where can you find the thousands of people with millions of dollars in donor advised funds that you can go prospect to give you free, easy money for your nonprofit. You can do that, and that might be something you want to do in a year or 3 years, but here's the thing. You have people right now on your Facebook, in your phone, on your email list, in your donor list that come to your fundraisers. Those are the people you talk to right now. Those are the people that need to know that this is a way that they can help you. This is another example of a beautiful home that was donated just a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, to a foundation. You see, we like to show these properties because we want you to know, sure, it could be a vacant gas station out in the middle of nowhere with tumbleweeds rolling through the driveway, but it can also be big estates. It can be residential, commercial, raw land, anything. Now, let's get into the last section, the meat of the matter. When I get done with this section 5, I'm going to stop and see if there's a question or two. And then I'm going to spend about 20 minutes, not even, going over how do we help nonprofits to find gifts of real estate and partner with financial advisors and realtors and all kinds of businesses through the donate real estate button. Remember, we've got free marketing material. We've got some that's a couple $100, and we got some that's a couple thousand. It is totally up to you as to how you want us to support you. Now, here is what you need to know about what qualifies a property. Spoiler alert, to keep it simple, it is any kind of real estate that has equity, that is marketable, and is not a timeshare. But let's give you some examples just to kind of prime the pump. So, residential, it can be primary homes. That last $7.5 million one was a primary home. It can be second homes like Linda Grable's house. It can be investment properties like, Mackenzie Scott had 2 houses that were $55 million worth. Those were investment properties. Commercial, it could be the office building that we keep talking about, the one in California or the one in Birmingham. It can be a big multifamily. It can be strip malls. It can be storage units. It can be restaurants. It can be any kind of commercial. And when you think about with the pandemic, there are so many commercial properties that those owners need a tax deduction right now. It can be raw land. I'm going to share with you in a little bit the link to go look at the case studies. There are a couple of examples of raw land, whether it's acreage or ranches or wineries. No timeshare. Now, what qualifies? Needs to be 12 months of ownership for the capital gains law to kick in. Marketable means it needs to be sellable. Friends, this is not about unloading or offloading property that is contaminated in the middle of nowhere. Nobody wants it anyway, so you're going to give it to the Boys and Girls Club. Well, that just doesn't even make sense. Remember that the third way, the win-win-win way, is that the specialized nonprofit is going to take title and financial responsibility and pay the monthly upkeep. They are not going to do that if a property is not going to be sellable. So it needs to be marketable. We're looking for a minimum equity of $250,000. Now, they have and will do gifts of real estate that are $50,000. Everything has different circumstances. Maybe they're wanting to build a relationship with that nonprofit specifically, but we're looking for a minimum of $250,000. And keep in mind that the average is $600,000. Actually, as of 2 weeks ago, it's $850,000 average equity. But the point is that to get a minimum of $250,000 in equity is not the stretch that some people might think that it is. And when it's commercial real estate, the average is right around $1 million from the donation. That's a whole different ball game than another bake sale or another golf tournament. The maximum size is unlimited. It could be any size. It could be a skyscraper in New York. Now, this little section is just to give you some ideas as to why the real agents of change and the strategy that we bring is a whole different ball game than just putting a link on the website. You see, properties that don't qualify as a gift of real estate are still listings for realtors. For example, your nonprofit and a real estate company come together and you have the donate real estate button, and a property owner puts in their information. Keep in mind, maybe they've watched a video. Most likely they don't have a clue how this works. So we get the email, you get the email. Look at that. We got a person with real estate that owns the real estate and is wanting to liquidate it and is potentially looking to give part of the proceeds away. Well, what if we find out that there's not enough equity? Maybe they can barely skate out with paying commissions and whatnot, but they don't know. They don't know how this works. So it's not a donation of real estate, but it is a listing. So it is lead generation still for the realtor. And you as a nonprofit, what if that realtor gives you a referral fee, gives you a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 because of that lead, that listing that came through your site? You see, there's lots of ways to leverage real estate for real change when you start to think outside the box. It can create those referral fees and fundraising opportunities, even if it's not a gift of real estate. Now, what documents are required? I'm going to reiterate. We are not CPAs. We are not attorneys. I'm not even selling real estate myself. Here's the thing. Do what you do best, refer the rest. We are only showing you how this works so you have an understanding of it. But remember the example that we gave, that when there is a donate button on a website and the person puts in their credit card information, there is a merchant service that processes that credit card. That nonprofit does not process credit cards. That nonprofit does not explain to people how credit card processing works. They send them to the button and they get the cash. So let's not try to be real estate experts explaining how this works. Let's just understand the concept of the process. So, required documents. First and foremost, person fills out the fields on the donate real estate button, and we see that it's a valid donation, and we put them in touch with specialized nonprofit. Everybody looks at all the numbers based on that real estate and what they owe and their tax bracket, et cetera, and a net gift estimate is created. And it shows exactly before any contracts are signed who's getting what nonprofits are getting paid, how much specialized nonprofit is keeping as a donation to facilitate the transaction. All that is upfront on the net gift estimate. Then the agreement is signed between the specialized nonprofit and the donor of the real estate. Whether it's a donation agreement or a bargain sale agreement, it's one or the other. And here's the difference between the two. If the property is 100% donation, like Linda Grable's, here's the deed, here's my keys, thank you very much. I don't want one penny, I just want a tax deduction. It's a donation. Or we've got our scenario of Bob in California, $2 million mortgage, $2 million cash in his pocket. That's called a bargain sale because in essence, it is a $10 million property that is being purchased at the bargain of $4 million. $2 million mortgage, $2 million cash, $4 million coming out of pocket to buy that property at a bargain sale agreement. I know, got to hear it a few times to really grasp it. At the end of this part, I'm going to show you that side-by-side comparison. There is a donation disclosure agreement, just like any real estate has disclosures, shows, hey, we've got a professional appraiser coming through, there's philanthropic intent, that type of thing. Here are the forms that go to the IRS. Do what you do best, refer the rest. We're not expecting you to explain this. Please don't confuse people. Here's how it works. The 8283 is signed by three parties. It's signed by the appraiser of the property, it's signed by the donor of the property, and it's signed by the nonprofit that is accepting the gift. This is the document that goes to the IRS that says Bob has a $10 million appraised property. Here's the nonprofit that accepted it. Here's the tax deduction he is expecting to take. The 8282 is kind of the check and balance. And when the property is sold, the specialized nonprofit or your nonprofit, like whatever nonprofit took possession of the property, if they sell it, then this is sent. So now it says, okay, we took this property, it appraised at 10 million. We sold it for 9.5 million, or we sold it for 10.2. In other words, this is how the IRS has its little check and balance. Listing agreement, purchase and sales is whatever it is in your state. It's kind of like an REO property or a relocation package from the perspective of, now the corporation who owns it might be in another state, but we're still using whatever documents are in the state where the property is. Sometimes people would say things like, how do we know our nonprofit's going to get the proceeds? How do we know if we have this button that, that we're going to know when the real estate is donated, that we're going to get the proceeds? Friends, everybody is kept in the loop. When the donor comes to the table and that net gift estimate is created, you can be there, the realtor, the nonprofit, the financial advisor, their mother, their brother, whoever wants to be a part of it. And this is a third party, like the merchant service companies. This isn't fly by night. These are companies who do this for a profession from sun up to sundown, been doing it for years. You'll be put in contact with them when the time comes, and you'll see that they do this even for Fidelity Charitables. All right. I'm going to take a 1-minute break, a little bio break, and then we're going to go through this side-by-side comparison. Then I'm going to see if anybody has a question or two. and then I'm going to show you the donate real estate button. So I'll be right back. Okay. All right. Let's wrap this up. Now, when it comes to this side-by-side comparison, I am not very good at explaining this, and I've explained it, oh gosh, 20 times now. But I like that I can vulnerably show you how ignorant I am about explaining all this, because, friends, do what you do best and refer the rest. When it comes to people's finances and tax deductions and, numbers that are this big, I'm not going to be the one that tries to help people understand how this works. We're going to have a financial advisor. We're going to have a CPA. We're going to have their attorney understand how all this works. I'm just showing you side by side because people want to know, well, why would somebody do it this way? What are the benefits? And keep in mind, obviously, they need to have philanthropic intent, because even though they're going to save $1 million in taxes, they're still giving away millions of dollars. So the IRS actually says by law, you have to, in writing, state philanthropic intention. Jim Wooten, one of the real agents of change who wrote the book Real Estate Gift, very specific about talking about that. So here's what it looks like. On the left-hand side, we have a depreciation schedule, because everybody wants to say, well, how much would they save on this, that, and the other thing? Well, you need to have exact numbers. You need to have a side-by-side actual comparison. So that is the depreciation schedule that we're using. Those are the percentages, etc. Okay. So on the left-hand side, you got the first way, traditional, conventional sale. Bob sold the house and paid all the taxes and then made a donation. On the right-hand side is how we suggest to do it. Donating it first to a nonprofit to avoid those taxes. So here's what it looks like. Now, right off the bat, on the left-hand side, there is $900,000 going to the government for capital gains and recapture tax. 900,000 that is not going to the nonprofit world. On the right-hand side, Because it was donated to the nonprofit first, that money does not go to the nonprofit world. Now, above the blue box, let me back up and say the sale value is 4.5 million. The 7% closing cost is the same on either side. That includes the commission for the realtor and any other closing costs. This is just a guesstimate. It could be that it was only 3%. It could be that it was 10% for whatever reason. This is just the number we're using for side-by-side comparison. So that $315,000 is going to be paid either way. But here's the difference. On the left-hand side, it is not written off as a tax deduction. On the right-hand side, it's part of the tax deduction because they're writing off 4.5 million. Okay. Now we're going to talk about this charitable leverage thing. So on the left-hand side, after closing cost, after money to the government, etc., they are donating to the nonprofit world 3.3 million, which means in the red box, 3.3 million is what they're able to write off of their adjusted gross income. So they're getting a $1.5 million tax deduction from their adjusted gross income. Not bad. That's good. And so that property has a cash value of 4.8 million. Now, on the right-hand side, the donation to the nonprofit world is 4.8 million. The donor is able to write off the full 4.5 million because that's what the nonprofit world took, 4.5 million. So they still had to pay the $315,000 in closing costs, but the nonprofit world put in their pocket 4.1 million. And because the donor didn't write off 3.3, they wrote off 4.5. They got a $2 million deduction off of their adjusted gross income. So another 500,000 more off of their adjusted gross income. So the cash benefit of this property, the way it's donated first, is leveraged 29.7%. It now has a cash value of 6.2 million. Now I'm going to let you sit with that for just a minute. And you could ask questions. I can't really explain a whole lot more than that. You're welcome to share this with a financial advisor. So financial advisors will understand tax benefit. What they don't have in their arsenal of tools is specialized nonprofits that can come in and help that donor make this donation easy, risk-free, directly to the church or the veteran group or 10 nonprofits that they want. And they don't have a group like this teaching them how to leverage this as a business development tool. Because you as a realtor could work with 100 financial advisors like this. And a financial advisor on the flip side could work with 100 realtors on something like this. And you all can work with thousands of nonprofits on this. Now, my mind gets a little big and a little visionary, and not everybody can see that. But what if it was one nonprofit in your backyard that had one donor that made a donation like this? Can you imagine the PR that would happen? Can you imagine the press release and the social media for your real estate company, for your nonprofit, for your financial advisory company? This is what we're talking about with the Real Agents of Change. This is another example. You see, when you start recognizing, oh, okay, this has been happening for 100 years. All right. Well, you know what? When I Google it, I do start to see, okay, there are nonprofits that that are benefiting from gifts of real estate, you start to recognize and you start to see it. Your reticular activator starts to have you seeing stories like this. All right. Does anyone have a quick question? Let me just check the chat. Brent says, who is they when you say they will? Brent, why don't you unmute yourself? Ask me your question.
Yeah, I meant to type what I meant in there when I was typing. You were like, well, they'll take a donation of, and you were talking about like they will, and you were you're using a dollar amount of like 250,000, and then you said they will take
the specialized nonprofit, Brent. So,
okay.
So what we have is an intermediary, a third party, a 501c3 that will take gifts of real estate on behalf of any other nonprofit that doesn't want the risk or responsibility. So when I say they will take it, what I mean is the specialized nonprofit that steps in that removes all the risk to any other nonprofit.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Willis has asked me a question. Okay, that was a private question about coming back from the trees.
And I put I put it in the group chat as well, though. Just I figured
Sure.
other people may want to. Yeah.
Sure. Listen, I'm going to be checking my cell phone. I'll be checking my email. I'll be on social media. Danielle is always available. I believe she's on right now, watching with us right now. When you have a donation that comes through, we're going to get the same email that you'll be getting from the donate real estate button. If there's a donation to be made, believe you me, we'll put you in touch with the specialized nonprofit. Keep in mind that we, the Real Agents of Change, are here to support you in helping to find the gift of real estate, and then also helping you to promote that the gift of real estate has come in. The actual facilitation of the gift of real estate is the specialized nonprofit, and they're not taking a break. They're right there. We'll make sure that that happens for you. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop recording and then hit start again, because this next section is something that I'm going to be providing